A sexual predator is a term for a person who hunts or repeatedly seeks sexual contact through manipulation, grooming, or force, often targeting vulnerable individuals like children, and is generally considered a severe threat to public safety, leading to specific legal designations and public registry requirements in many places, differentiating them from general sex offenders by risk level and behavior patterns. What I just read is a general overview of what a sexual predator is. This is the term. This is what Ryan Reynolds called Justin Baldoni. Now you take that, being called a sexual predator, put that on one side. Then you take what people, which I believe is true, but in my opinion, a lot of these things are true, but being labeled difficult to work with, mean girl, bitch. Some people in social media have called her a cunt, which in my opinion, it's not far from the truth. But you take those type of terms and you compare it to what Justin Baldoni was called by Ryan Reynolds, and also accused of being a sexual harasser by Blake Lively herself. Both bad. Nobody wants to be called any of that. You take these terms and you ask yourself, what is worse? Being called a mean girl, a bitch, someone that's difficult to work with, or sexual predator? Now, being a sexual predator could mean targeting adult women. It doesn't necessarily mean against children. By definition, it doesn't. But it could mean that. And that takes that connotation to a whole nother level. Combining that in with Blake Lively calling the video that she didn't even watch, the still of the video or a few seconds of Jamie Heath trying to show her, not the actual labor, but after the baby was born, how they were acting, as inspiration for a scene she was doing, which included her acting out the birth of a child. And then she had the nerve to be like, oh, I thought you showed me porn. Okay, maybe that confusion could happen, but it was clarified. But for her to keep bringing that up and pushing that, in my opinion, combining that, just the idea of a birthing video and her alluding that Jamie Heath is a creep and he's friends with Justin Baldoni, this sexual predator, and throwing in the idea of anything involving a baby, a child, and connecting that with pornography, it's kind of hinting that there is an element, in my opinion, or trying to portray to people that there could be an element of child sexual abuse, or he's a pervert towards children, or a predator towards children. And yes, that's a serious thing to be talking about. Now, I have no evidence of that, and this is just me speculating. But to throw all these things out there, it might just be me, but even if you're not consciously aware of it, I can't help but think combining the comment of sexual predator or Justin being a sexual harasser, and then one of the other defendants in this case, Jamie Heath, showing in Blake's words, a pornographic video, which involves a child, but it wasn't a pornographic video, but alluding to that. I can't help whether consciously or even subconsciously, there's those thoughts in the back of the general public's minds that all the Wayfayer parties are these sexual creeps, and that it could involve children. So all this being said, I know a lot of content creators, especially those that are legal professionals. I think they've done a great job with this case, really focusing on the legalities of it. I'm not going to go into the legalities myself, because they've already covered it. They've done a great job. I try to look at the overall picture. And in the beginning, a lot of people were like, oh, well, in cases like these, settlements are quite common. A lot of people didn't think this would go to court, and it still might not. Justin Baldoni might want to settle because this is very exhausting for him. It's very emotionally draining. I don't know. But in my opinion, I don't think he can. I also think, in my opinion, Blake Lively, I feel like both her and her husband, in my opinion, are narcissists. That they can never admit that they were wrong. But who knows? The writing is on the wall, and it's not looking good for them, in my opinion. So I wouldn't be surprised if her and her legal team have tried to settle already with Justin Baldoni. To me, if I was involved in their legal team, I would recommend that, and maybe they have. But if they have, I think they would have made it a condition where they didn't have to apologize or admit any wrongdoing, or even minimal wrongdoing. And if I was Wayfayer presented with this, there's no way I could accept it. He was called a sexual predator. Blake Lively insinuated that it was something wrong, sexually dirty, for Jamie Heath to show her a clip of them holding their newborn baby. If the Wayfair parties were to accept a settlement, especially, but even with some kind of admittance of wrongdoing from Blake Lively, legally, it would not be an indication of any guilt on their part. But publicly, there'll always be people who be like, oh, well, they settled. There must be something there. Even maybe it's not as bad as what Blake Lively claimed. Maybe they are a little bit sexually weird or creepy. Even at this point, too, if Blake Lively were to be willing to make a public statement saying that she was wrong, she apologizes, she misinterpreted a lot of things on set, I still don't think that would be good enough to clear Wayfair, because Blake Lively and her team have already set the stage and, in my opinion, made false allegations that the Wayfair party have participated in evidence spoliation, meaning that they deleted the proof that Blake Lively needed to show that they ran a smear campaign against her because she reported sexual harassment against them. So her and her fans or the bots or whatever will always be like, yeah, she settled. But she had to because these horrible people hid the evidence needed to prove her case. So even though she said she was sorry, she did it because she had to. Not that she's done anything wrong. So I say, in my opinion, the Wayfair has to go all the way. And more evidence needs to come out. I will say it again. Ryan Reynolds called him a sexual predator. Justin Baldoni has a daughter, a young daughter. I couldn't imagine having the general public thinking he's a predator. She could be at school with her friends. And kids like to find stuff on the internet. They always do. If there's something negative about a friend's parents, they'll find it. And her friends find these stories that her father was accused of being a sexual predator. Oh, can you imagine? Most people have been to high school or middle school, even elementary. If something like that got out, can you imagine how his daughter would feel? And the kinds of things classmates would say to her, they would treat her differently. And that air of people are staring at me. And of course the parents are going to find out. The parents of her peers. What if she has a birthday party coming up and she wants to have some of her girlfriends over for sleepover? Do you think if the parents knew he was accused of this, even though they settled, especially if they settled, if it wasn't 100% brought to light all the evidence and he settled, do you think they would let their kids, their daughters, go over to their friend's house for a sleepover with Justin Baldoni in the home, if that's what they thought? Like, come the fuck on. If he is innocent, and I believe he is, poor man, he has to take all this the whole way. Not just for other men, which I think it is important for other people that are falsely accused of something so heinous, but for himself and his family. Also, I'm proud of the people that have been following this case. It's important. It's not just a celebrity legal drama. It's big. And with this case, especially with the mainstream media, it's being manipulated, in my opinion, by Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, whether they are being blackmailed, paid off, or they're scared too because they backed the wrong horse, like I said in one of my earlier videos, and they can't go back on that now. They have to continue with that narrative because they're worried they're going to be sued. The problem with that is the people that aren't following this case, like myself and other content creators, deeply, they're scrolling through their Facebook or whatever social media, and they're just seeing these headlines from mainstream media saying Justin Baldoni's case was dismissed. So they go, oh, well, that means he didn't have any facts, he didn't have any evidence, he must have been wrong. And we know that's not true. It wasn't dismissed on the facts, but the law, which he still can appeal, and I think he should, but that's another discussion. But that's all they see, so they think he's the bad guy. Oh, well, if it was dismissed, maybe Blake Lively is telling the truth and he's some kind of pervert. All of this is just to say, of course there hasn't been a settlement. I don't know why people keep bringing that up. Sure, in the legal world it does happen often. It doesn't mean one party's guilty and the other party's innocent and vice versa. But in the public, it does. It has different connotations. And in this case, being called a sexual predator, associating a birth that involves a baby with something pornographic. If it was me and I'm innocent, of course I'd fight that to the bitter end. How dare you call me something so horrible? It makes me so mad. I hope Wayfayer appeals the dismissal against Ryan fucking Reynolds. But that is another discussion. And like I said before, this is all my opinion, my speculations, my own personal thoughts. And I think it is such a fortunate thing that Wayfayer, specifically Justin Baldoni, has a friend and a colleague like Steve Sarowitz that is willing to help him financially clear his name. The really sad thing is, if it was someone else that did not have this kind of backing, that people in power, like Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, could get away with calling someone something such as a sexual predator, spreading false information. And there's nothing that person could do to clear their name. They would have to live with that for the rest of their lives. Well, people like Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds go on to portray this perfect happy family and, oh, we're so good, we donate to charity, we're good people. Yeah, good people who chose to have their wedding on a ex-slave plantation. But they're good people. Yeah, okay. This is all to say, in my opinion, I don't think Wayfayer can settle or should settle. I would understand if they did, not to hide any potential guilt, but because it's just such a nightmare to go through this illegal process such as this. But I hope they don't. I hope they keep fighting, not just to clear their own names, but keep fighting for the people that don't have the funds to take on someone like Blake Lively. Keep fighting to expose media manipulation, especially by those in power. Keep fighting for the truth.